The average person who says this is the year has already said it 11 times before. Nobody restarting in July thinks of it as a pattern. They think of it as finally getting serious this time. There's a name for this cycle in psychology. Researchers Janet Polivy and Peter Herman called it false hope syndrome. The theory is simple and slightly brutal once you sit with it. Committing to change feels good almost immediately. That good feeling arrives long before any actual change happens. The reward isn't the result. The reward is the decision itself. He deletes a dating app, buys a $60 planner, and reorganizes his kitchen cabinets by macro group. None of it involves exercising yet. By the second week, the planner is holding takeout menus. That's the whole cycle in miniature. Commit, feel better, do almost nothing, repeat. Polivy and Herman found people chase that early feeling of control on purpose, whether they realize it or not. The optimism at the start doesn't just predict success. Sometimes it actively works against it. People who feel most confident on day 1 are often the least prepared for day 30, because confidence quietly replaces preparation. Nobody plans for the version of themselves who doesn't feel like it. That version shows up anyway, usually around week 2. Here's how common that cycle actually is. Research from Ohio State's Fisher College of Business found that only 9% of people who make a New Year's resolution actually complete it. 23% quit within the first week. 43% quit before February even starts. A separate industry survey put the overall failure rate even higher at 92%. Strava, the fitness tracking app, has a name for the day most people give up. They call the second Friday in January Quitter's Day. It's treated as a joke. It's actually a fairly precise data point, backed by millions of tracked workouts that just stop. The drop-off shows up in the data as a cliff, not a slope. One week people are logging runs, and the next week the graph just goes flat. The pattern isn't limited to January, either. Forbes Health surveyed people about how long their resolutions typically last. Just 8% made it a full month. About 22% made it 2 months, and another 22% made it 3. The average answer, across everyone surveyed, was 3.74 months, not a year. Not even half of one. A few months, then quiet, then a new download in a different month, under a different name. False hope syndrome explains part of why the quitting doesn't teach anyone anything. Committing to a new habit triggers an early sense of control and optimism. Those feelings show up before the behavior has even changed. So when the behavior doesn't stick, it doesn't register as bad planning. It registers as a personal failure, which makes the next restart feel necessary, not repetitive. 85% of Americans set some kind of resolution each year. More than 60% say they feel pressured into it, even when they don't especially want to. The logic goes, I didn't try hard enough. Not, I was chasing a feeling instead of a routine. That logic is comforting in a strange way. It keeps the problem inside something fixable, instead of inside something structural. A woman moves $200 into a savings account labeled No Spend Era. She renames it 4 times over the year. The balance never changes. Each renaming feels like a fresh decision, even though the account itself never does anything differently. Some researchers have started pointing at identity as the missing variable. People who frame a goal as, I'm becoming someone who exercises, tend to outlast people who frame it as, I should exercise more. The second version stays a chore assigned to an unchanged person. It never gets internalized, so there's nothing holding it in place once motivation dips. And motivation always dips. It dips on a schedule that has nothing to do with how badly someone wants the outcome. She follows 6 new fitness accounts every restart, then quietly mutes all of them within a month. Meanwhile, the actual mechanics of habit formation are running on a completely different timeline than any of this accounts for. A 2010 study by UWell psychologist Philippa Lally tracked 96 people building one new daily habit. The median time to reach automaticity was 66 days. Depending on the habit, it ranged from 18 days to 254. Automaticity has nothing to do with enjoying the habit. It just means the behavior stops requiring a decision at all. Most restarts don't survive past week 3 or 4, long before that point arrives. That's the exact stretch where a habit feels hardest, right before it would start getting easier. A habit that would have taken 66 days gets abandoned on day 22, which then gets filed away as evidence the whole approach was wrong. People quit in the worst possible window and read it as proof they lack discipline. Nobody tells them the discomfort was scheduled to end soon, so they interpret a temporary phase as a permanent verdict on their character. He sets 5 alarms for a 6 a.m. workout block that lasts 2 mornings. The alarms stay in his phone for months, going off into an empty gym bag. Nobody turns them off. Turning off a recurring alarm can feel like admitting a restart is over. Leaving it on costs nothing and quietly keeps the option open. There's a financial layer to all of this too. Americans now spend an average of $4,700 a year on resolution-related purchases, according to research from Stagwell. Gym memberships, meal kits, coaching apps, planners that end up holding takeout menus. Most of that money buys the restart. Very little of it buys the result. The wellness industry doesn't actually need anyone to finish. It needs people to keep starting, on a loop, at full price, every few months. A finished habit doesn't need a new app, a new planner, or a new coaching program. An unfinished one needs all 3, repeatedly, which is a better business than success would ever be. Only around 20% of goal setters build in any real accountability system. The other 80% are relying on the same burst of motivation that already failed them 11 times. Somehow it's expected to behave differently on the 12th attempt. A guy tells his group chat he's doing dry January, unprompted, in July, like an announcement nobody asked for. His friends react with 3 thumbs up and move on. He drinks a beer 9 days later and never brings up either moment again. An announcement like that can do its job before the actual behavior ever happens. Saying it out loud already delivers the identity boost the behavior was supposed to earn. Not every restart is doomed the same way, though. A Swedish study tracking over 1,000 people found something specific about why certain goals hold and others don't. Goals framed as moving towards something succeeded 59% of the time at the 1-year mark. Goals framed as running away from something succeeded only 47% of the time. 12 restarts a year rarely get reframed. They just get repeated, word for word, with more guilt stacked on top each time, until the wording itself starts to feel like the problem. 12 restarts a year isn't a discipline problem. It's a loop that was never actually about finishing. Go back to the guy who deleted the dating app. He'll download a new one this week, or a different app entirely. Not because this attempt is different from the last 11, because starting feels like progress, and feeling like progress is the actual product being sold back to him 12 times a year. The 11 previous restarts weren't failures he needs to fix before the 12th can work. They were the business model functioning exactly as designed and functioning well. Nobody selling the 12th restart is rooting against him. They just don't need him to actually finish for the transaction to count as successful on their end. 12 isn't even a high number, statistically. It's closer to average than anyone restarting would like to admit. Notice what all of these restarts have in common, from the planner to the savings account to the muted fitness accounts. Each one produced a small burst of relief the moment it began, and almost nothing after that. The relief is real. It's just not attached to the outcome anyone thinks they're chasing. Somewhere between Restart 8 and Restart 12, this is the year stopped being a plan. It became a ritual, performed on a schedule nobody set on purpose. None of this means the 12th attempt is doomed, either. It just means the 12th attempt probably needs a different question than the first 11 did. Not, how do I finally have enough willpower, but what happens on day 22 when it stops feeling new? And rituals don't need to work. They just need to be repeated. That's the part nobody puts on the vision board. If any of this landed, there's more of this on the channel.